Over the next few minutes, I'm going to show you this exact process and like the overall framework. So that way you have a actionable series of steps that you can take after this video and actually start helping you generate more from the leads you're already getting in your business instead of having to heavily prioritize just generating new leads. Once you do have some type of system, some type of environment that you can generate leads and calls from, you need to actually have the right replicatable process that a person goes through every time they interact with your business to streamline operations, improve efficiency, reduce lag time, and increase the trust and credibility with a potential customer. If you have someone that raises their hand and shows interest, you want to drive that person through your flow as effectively and efficiently as possible. Look, you can be as good as you want in the sales call, but if they don't show up in the first place, it doesn't really matter. Not only that, if there's lag time after they say yes and they're interested, you're going to have a hard time driving them to the point of them actually paying you, because money doesn't count until it's in your bank. And so what is the process, right? The process at its core is what I like to call the 7 C's. The 7 C's is a 7-step framework that encapsulates what I view as the revenue OS. So the upfront ecosystem that a person experiences before they complete their purchase with you and then immediately after a purchase has occurred. And so you have a series of steps that need to be done in order to build trust, credibility, validation, ongoing confidence, and driving the person through, making them feel validated and confident and comfortable that they made the right decision to spend thousands of dollars with you. And so in order to succeed in that area, because most agencies have a very high churn, or even if it's not a high churn per se, that how they view it, they just think the engagement's over, they don't have as much repeatable revenue on the back end. And most agencies see a customer churn every 4 to 6 months. If you're really good at handling customers or you're really small, it might be a year or a couple of years. But as you scale up, the churn, of course, cuts down because things are less personal for most agencies. And so we want to soften that and reduce that friction up front so they have this overwhelming positive experience. So how do we do that? We need to understand your sales process. You're going to go and do something to get the leads, as we had mentioned, right? And so that involves capturing, right? So when a person gets in front of us and they put their hand up and they're interested, we need some type of speed to lead activity. So we want to ideally reach this lead within 5 minutes or less. So if they fill out a form, they put in a questionnaire, they send you a message on DMs, something, you want to have a process that gets in front of them and at least communicate something as efficiently and quickly as possible while remaining human and authentic, unless it's intended to be a pre-scripted sequence. I personally like communicating and feeling as authentic as possible. Right? So if you come in and fill out a form, I want to be able to have something from my personal email that goes, "Hey, John, how's it going, man? I just saw you come through, blah, 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 blah," right? Like you want to have something that's unique, conversational, off the cuff. It doesn't have to be very wordy. It doesn't need to have a bunch of bullet points. If anything, it should be less is more, because you just want to acknowledge them and guide them through the next steps, because it wants to feel direct. People crave human connection. You want to allow that to feel as clear and authentic as possible. So once you've done that, that helps you then drive person to the next step. If you aren't automatically driving someone to a booked call, typically you've got a handful of steps that need to be done in this capture phase of maybe getting in front of them via LinkedIn, SMS, email, cold call, series of actions as fast and efficiently as possible, at least once, ideally a handful of times. From there, the objective is getting them on a call. Once they've booked the call, though, we want to do everything we can to get them to show up. Now, a lot of people, no-show rates, honestly, depending on the amount of activity you have with someone, it sits in the 40, really between 20 and 40% range. But more realistically, I'd say within the agency space, it leads between 40 and 50%. So a lot of agencies, they have this instance where half the people who book a call just never show up. And part of the issue there is that if you're generating 30 booked calls up front a month, you have 15 potential deals that never even get to come into your call. They never even have a chance to talk to you. And it's likely often because of the lack of pre-call follow-up, pre-call engagement, pre-call qualification, pre-call activity. And it doesn't mean you got to send them 100 messages, but it does mean that you need to be proactive across multiple channels at realistic timeframes without sending them 55 messages in the same day. But you need to do something to provide trust, credibility, validation, confirmation, excitement. And it can be a hybrid between pre-canned messaging, as in like your templated emails from your Calendly or your HubSpot booking or your TidyCal or whatever, but then also your own personal messaging of like, hey, John, just saw that you booked a call with us. Just so you know, I'm super excited to connect. By the way, if you get a chance, I'd love it if you could just let me know a few of these details. I looked at your website. I really like what you guys are doing. By the way, do you have an answer on this and this? Or have an option of, hey, if you have a chance, could you fill out this form below? This form really helps me walk into the call a bit better prepared so we can make the most of our time. Doing different actions like that just through like an email is great. Even better is if you auto connect and follow up with someone via LinkedIn or send them a text message, so on. Once you've got them to show up, you then have the instance of, okay, are they interested? Great. Let's move them through the flow. If not, we want to then cultivate. So we need them to be a part of this process of cultivation. We'll come back to it in a moment, but there's a process of conversion. So once a person says yes and they're interested, we need to call out and have a clear set of next steps. If we are doing all of this manually, typing it up, having an absurdly long delay period where you're manually building out a proposal every single time, manually auditing every single thing, manually following up, manually tracking. Again, most businesses that I would see, especially agencies in sub like $2 million a year range, are definitely doing a majority of this still fairly automated or manual, I would say. So we want to automate as much of it as possible. Not everything, but most of it. So if someone says, yes, I want something to analyze the disposition of that call and go, are they interested? What are they interested in? What templated proposal are they probably already wanting? Can I curate that proposal and have it ready either A, while I'm still in the call, or can I have it be done literally within sub 5 minutes after the call and draft an email to then send over to that person and then notify me that this thing was created so I can get a review, I can edit it, I can adjust the pricing, whatever it is. You need something that speeds up your process to allow proposals or quotes or invoices to move to that person as efficiently as possible. Now, depending on the type of engagement that you have, you will likely create a proposal that has the ability to sign and pay inside of it, which of course then hybridizes this collect and convert components together in some way, shape, or form for at least the first payment. And then others, you have to get a signing on a contract and then thereafter a invoice is being sent. So you've sort of got your two pathways of how it's likely going to be executed. Now, when it comes to this, both of them still have similar flows, right? If you're going to send this, you still need a downstream like follow-up. So like you send it, they're like, yeah, I'm going to sign. And then it takes them 10 days. You need something to get them moving forward. Ideally, before you get out of this connect call and they say yes, get a follow-up call, get your kickoff call set up, right? So like, hey, that's great. Why don't we schedule our kickoff call? I understand you guys are going to move forward. I know you guys need like a day or so to review things. We're going into the weekend, whatever. I'm going to set our kickoff call for Wednesday. That's typically when we do it. Can you go through, once you've signed and accepted everything, we can always work through stuff, next steps, etc. Right, like just something to continue the process moving forward. Just doing that alone will get more people to feel like they have to move forward, or if they're going to go silent on you, that you have a clear reason as to why you can follow up outside of just saying, oh, you said you were interested. So doing these types of little things will help you to first off, give you the verbal permission to progress them forward and push on them of, hey, you said you were interested. Hey, I sent everything over. Why haven't you paid? Why haven't you signed? Right? What's holding it up? Right? And this allows you to like rehandle some of these objections. Ideally, you can handle them in the call before they leave. Right? So once you've got this conversion component, they've signed your proposal, things are starting to move forward. You have this complete component. What is complete? Well, what is the process of this? Well, what this effectively means is the front end environment of selling has quote unquote completed, and we now need to start doing the handoff between the sales team and the back end delivery team. So ops handoff. And so we want to mitigate confusion, lack of clarity, lack of understanding, and ensure as much information has been passed over. Because as you scale your business, you're going to have sales reps that say yes to everything, and you're going to be scared shitless realizing how terrible they've like overcommitted on random things. And some of that's going to come from training, but you're going to notice when you're small and you do bring on sales reps that you're thinking that they're doing everything exactly how you want. Then if you came in and listened to those calls, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, why are they doing that? And then it needs you to do better training, right? That's a whole conversation. I think most people probably go through that until they get really good at training sales teams and other people. And that's okay. That's just part of it. Is we want to mitigate issues as much as possible between a sales team member doing something and then onboarding that team, the client. And this is super important because the sales reps set up all of these huge expectations and ideas and adjusted this person's belief system or validated their belief and really built all this confidence around us executing a certain thing within a certain time, helping them get certain results. And then you got to actually do the thing. So if you're going to do the thing, you really want to have as much of that information being able to be passed over. And so when it comes to this handoff, I highly recommend you having some type of system that can record every one of your calls, transcribe it, provide documented context of each conversation, anything that provides an naturally updated customer profile. So that way your team internally can go and see that a call on the 6th of the month, Cole talked to John and he told him that I can make you $1 billion, right? Like you need to know what expectations someone had set, right? So that way your team can A, handle it and go, yes, we can do that. We can validate it. Or B, you can have someone to make sure that we are directionally aligned as efficiently as possible. Again, as much of this ideally is done prior to you selling, but it's important to understand that these things will happen as you are trying to grow your business and you bring more people into your organization. And so having a thing that allows you to get a person to agree, get them into your environment, all of the documentation, your onboarding, your tasks, your to-dos, getting access to information and your tools or systems is like a must do. So let's say you move through this process. A lot of agencies are probably going to have someone sign. They're going to start the onboarding before they get paid. I personally prefer to go convert, collect, and then complete. However, I keep it in this flow because I think that there's still a lot of places that want to get a person moving forward, even if payment doesn't come out immediately, as some of you don't do any form of payment up front. And so I'm not going to fight you on a sales methodology today. I just want to say that I'm just showing you in the order that I see many agencies do it. And so you have this collection period. This collection period can come from a lot of like whatever your tool is. If you're using Stripe or I guess PayPal, but realistically something like QuickBooks or Wave Apps or some tool that has formatted invoicing that is either done on a one-off or recurring basis. And maybe you're doing like half up front, half at the end. Like you've got all your different ways of payment. What you want to do is you want to have your pre-built out messages that are going to be done time and time again from a professional corporate standard, most likely for this collection window. And it should be majority of that type of messaging where it is clean, clear, professional from the company, not just from an individual person. So that way it can maintain a level of structure. It's especially important when you're smaller and you want to present yourself as larger. And I think that's an important aspect of these smaller guys as you're building your business. How do I differentiate it so not everything is coming from my email address? And I think that is actually important because if you're collecting and you're doing all of your important emails all through your same email domain, as in like Cole at Brain Gears or whatever, you give yourself this space where you're the one verbally fighting for everything, rather than, even if you are doing the one, even if you are the one doing everything, you're not giving yourself space for you to use your leadership, your position of control, to help you with driving revenue. Example, if I had Susie, my accountant, right, go and send out this messaging for them like, hey, it's Susie, just wanted to shoot over the invoice. We're so excited to move forward with you, blah, blah, blah. It provides a layer of credibility and validation that is a must for any and all agencies. And so if you are small and you're growing, I implore you to use a generic or an alternative email, so that way there is a separation between you doing the selling and the onboarding with your team and the person who is actually assigned on an email basis to collect payment. I think it's important. I think it maintains professional viewpoint, and it keeps things efficient and uniquely defined within the organization. We can go into the specifics of that later, but I think that's a very important call out, because it also makes it easier that when you do bring on more talent and you have an official person like what we've got for collecting payments and handling this part of the business, that it's not like you're stripping out existing systems. You're just able to use existing infrastructure. So going into the leads that were interested and then died, I highly recommend you having some type of ongoing sequence where every single lead that you have sold to in the past or haven't sold to over the last quarter, last 2 quarters, last year is cold called at least a couple of times in the year, sent an email a couple of times in the year, ideally some type of long-term nurture sequence, once a month, once a week, once every 2 weeks, some type of cadence. Because if they keep engaging in some way, shape, or form, there's going to be a percentage of the people that are in your dead lead pools that will come back and buy. Especially if you're doing a mixture of go-to, like, general messaging of like, here's these tips and tricks and all that stuff, whatever. And then also sending your personal one-off emails like, hey, John, how's it going? You know, I think we are honestly probably priced out last time because I know we're probably the most expensive people you're working with or could work with in the space. And you probably went with this cheaper agency. How are things going? Are you satisfied with the results? You would actually be surprised that you could easily just start collecting a couple of people a year. So if you average out, if your average customer lifetime value with you is like 20K, if you could just bring one person a year back out of your dead lead pool, that's an extra free 20K, quote unquote. You've already spent the money to bring them in. You've already paid money for the lead. You've paid money for the time of the hours and the calls and the auditing and the quoting and the planning. Right? You've already done all this upfront work. You should just do a few of the easy things, which is just send them a few freaking emails or text messages or cold call them to get some of these people back through your flow. Just because they died 6 months ago does not mean they won't pay for your services now or pay for them again. So don't treat everyone as a one and done. And if they don't show up, it doesn't mean that they're dead. It means that they need to be nurtured, cultivated, and re-engaged over a period of time. And then, of course, the final piece I think is probably the easiest way for you to win, to start generating more referrals and more valid credibility for your business. And that is every single time someone begins working with you and they are happy, ideally in the beginning phases when their excitement is high, or right after you have delivered, after in knowing that you're going to do something recurring, is get some type of testimonial, whether it's a video or a written testimonial or some type of case study with the person. Time and time again. Do it at the highest point of satisfaction every time, because it will guarantee that you're going to get the best possible testimonial and the best possible satisfaction. And I believe that you're going to be able to continue to execute at the same or greater level, but you want to maintain the best possible ROI. And so by going through and building a tiny engine that as soon as something is done and you see a high level of satisfaction, that you can automatically get in front of them being like, hey, John, how's it going? I'm so happy we've been able to do this thing for you. It's so great to see that your social content has been really crushing it this month. By the way, would you be interested or open to doing a review or shooting a video testimonial with us? By doing so, happy to give you X off this upcoming month, right? Just something if you want, just to incentivize them to continue moving forward. You might might not even need to do that depending on how good your results are, but I do think it's something just to keep in mind. If you go through and do this system alone, even just working through how to curate it for your business specifically, I can guarantee that if you aren't doing all of these things today and then you put all of these things in place, you're going to make more money. Guaranteed. Because you're officially having a system that's put in at every key stage in the business of pre-revenue generation and some post-revenue generation. So if you want to grow your business and you want to get better results within your agency, I implore you to do this process. If you want access to a deeper review and you want me to potentially help you actually put this thing together for yourself and show you where you're at and show you where you could likely be within the next 60 to 90 days once you put these things in place, more than happy to do so. I've got a link down below. We can connect. If not, totally fine. I've got a bunch of free content. And if you want more information just like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. Doing this stuff is so much fun to me, and I want to help more and more people get better results with their agency. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you again soon.